Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a really Christmassy 30 stem challenge for you. Like many florists, nice piece of string here. Like many florists, I'm at the end of the Christmas prep. I have delivered my last bespoke wreath. I have one more big floristry session to go before I break for Christmas. And my studio looks like a bomb's hit it. So instead of clearing it up, I'm going to use all the leftovers to make my own Christmas wreath, including I'm going to use this base, which is falling apart rather. I made it at a demo some weeks ago and it's been lying around in the back of the car. So I'm not going to waste anything. I'm going to show you my studio in all its disgustingness. And I'm going to use up everything I've got left in here to make a really spectacular wreath and hopefully inspire you to go and have a rave up. Look around the house, look around the garage, look around the shed, look around the garden and see what you've got. I'm not going to let myself go and cut any more for this, because I think what happens is it's very easy to clear up first and waste a lot. It's certainly in my case, and then have to go and do more work. And I've got, honestly, the studio, you're going to see in a sec, it's absolutely bursting with stuff that I could chuck on the compost heap, but actually I'm going to use it because it's quicker and waste not, want not. And it's also challenging. I like to challenge myself by saying creatively, I'm only allowed to use X, Y, and Z. It makes me think more. And if I can encourage myself to think more, then I make my brain work better. And, and that makes me happy. I've got to keep my brain fit as well as the rest of me. So I'm going to keep my brain fit by challenging myself to use only what I've got available, not just go and help myself from outside. But you, on the other hand, what are you going to challenge yourself? What are the parameters within which you are going to make your wreath? And that is your 30 stem challenge for this week. So come on, enough of this introduction. Let's get on. And if you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Please do subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks I give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club. The links to coffee buying and club membership are in the blurb to all my clips. Right, on we go. So here is the studio. Look, I've never seen so much mess. But lots of nice dried material left over from the gold and silver arrangements I made last week. Lots of gold and silver dried. So I'm thinking that my wreath might have a kind of dried feel to it. Lots more willow lying around. Look, the bucket's fallen over. I mean, we really are at the end of the process. I've got some dried hydrangeas up there though, so they might come in handy. Bits of greenery everywhere, including sitting in a bucket. Lots of eryngium. And these have been sitting in this bucket for about 3 weeks. I think I can definitely fit some of them in. I love their silvery, starry shapes. And down here, left over from another demo I did out of the back of the car, bits of greenery, but some nice holly with berries still on, and some more twigs. So I'm going to make myself a really fat wreath, I think. A really fat wreath base, and then I'm going to dress it. And I said I'd show you my studio. So look, there are the dahlias snuggled up in the cool. Tells you how cold it is in here. And there is piles of things to do. This is a dishwasher and a fridge, which are going in my new studio up the field, but haven't got there yet because we're not quite ready for them. Oh, there are my snips. Very good, excellent. Ranunculus claws for after Christmas. Bits of desk material, empty buckets, planted out sweet peas, time to do some more. Oh, yes, fizzy wine for Christmas, and on we go. Right, yeah, classic Common Farm Flowers style lighting setup. We've got a little lamp on a cardboard box, and the other lamp is on the old Singer sewing machine stand, which is where Fabrizio keeps his knife sharpener. Oh well, on we go. Right, but that is my set. That's where I do my demos. So that's where I'm going to set myself up so it looks tidier and you won't be distracted by the mess. Right, so I've got a twig base here, but look, it needs a bit of tidying up. It's feeling like it's been rolling around in the back of the car for a while. This often happens with me as I go and give demos, and it's such a busy time of year that I kind of just drive around in the back of the car just fills up with rubbish. It's very simple to make a twig base, and I'm going to dress it quite strongly, so it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. I have got demos. If you want, I'm not sure they're still, have a look. If they're still live, and you can book a demo, and I show you really, absolutely, step by step how to make these twig bases. But really, you can go and find any. You just need a bendy twig in your garden. It doesn't have to be. It just needs to be bendy enough that you can manipulate it into a circle. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle either, because I'm going to add a lot of material. I mean, if you want a perfect circle, then you can make a perfect circle. And the twig to make a perfect circle with is willow because of the tension. It works really, really well. But this is a mix of willow and different kinds of willow, poplar, curly willow, which is brilliant. I've got some lovely. This is Salix alba, white willow. I know it's orange, but it is white willow. This is magic. Willow is always associated with spring magic, and I have a real. Actually, I will admit I'm quite excited about Christmas this year, but I don't love the dark winter days at all. And we are days away from the winter solstice, and I sort of hyperventilate with longing for the return of the light. So it gives me great pleasure to make wreaths out of willow, which represents spring magic, because I feel as though I'm sort of skipping winter by putting spring magic on my door. And I also feel as, I'm not superstitious. Actually, in my old age, I'm much less superstitious than I was. I've decided it's boring being superstitious, because then if you're superstitious, you're taking away your own agency. You're denying yourself your own agency. So I'm not superstitious anymore at all. I am, if I think something should or shouldn't happen, then it's up to me to make it. But that doesn't mean I won't avail myself of the energy. I suppose that's what magic. I think what is magic? It's magic energy. An enormous amount of energy in this curly willow. So I think that's what I'm doing, is I'm availing myself of the energy of the curly willow and all the good willow by putting it on my door. I'm bringing the energy, the good energy, the growing energy, the springiness, the bounce of it. Maybe that's what it is, into my house. I mean, I completely understand why, you can be superstitious about walking under a ladder. That's not being superstitious, that's just being sensible. If somebody's up the ladder and they drop something on your head, it'll hurt. So, of course, don't walk around under ladders. Although I think the days of my saluting at magpies are gone. And I'm never superstitious about which way the salt is passed. But I do feel very strongly that things like willow, there is magic in that there willow. And I'll have a bit of that energy, that good energy is what magic is. Right, that's a bit stronger. I'm going to finish it off with some more of this lovely Salix alba, because the colour is fantastic, and I intend I'm looking for quite a fat one. And I intend my wreath, that I want the colour of the base to shine through. I need to keep enough one side. I've got to make one for my mother-in-law as well. She lives in the tractor shed. It's not really, it used to be the tractor shed, and then we turned it into a house, but I still think of it really as the tractor shed. So the tractor shed needs a wreath on its door for my mother-in-law. So I can't use everything up in this one wreath. Right, so there is a magic wreath base. Quite heavy, not totally round. It's got a really pleasing thing about willow, the thing about twigs actually, the thing about trees is that they have a pleasing weight to them, especially when there's still plenty of sap. You know, I've cut this off the living tree, and so there's plenty of sap in this, which gives it a weight. So I'm going to put that to one side. I love it. Look. Obviously, do be careful if you're making a wreath that it is not so enormous it won't fit on your door. The base would fit on my door, so I could cut off all the twiggy extra bits and it would fit on my door, but it's already much too big for my front door. Look, it comes out this way. My front door is not that big, so it will end up hanging on a wall. But I like that, that's fine. On a wall by the door. Right, I'm going to put this to one side and I'm going to make some mixed bunches, which I'm going to then attach to my wreath. So I'm going to get my material. I've got my plenty of dried hydrangeas. Here they are behind me. You can go with the others. And I'm going to bring all my other stuff and I'll show you, I think probably what I'll do is I'll show you one bunch. So I'm going to make loads of bunches of material and tie them to my wreath. So I'll just make one bunch that you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll make a load more, but they'll be the same. And then I'll put them all on. Right, stay with me. I'm getting the material for my little bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yes. Lovely little things. And hold on, more to come. And 6. And 7. And one more for luck. No, we're not superstitious. And 8. If you're using hydrangeas and they're enormous, look, I've got one here that's just vast. That's way too big, even for my huge wreath. So I'm going to cut that down and use bits of it. Don't feel, just because something's enormous, you must use the enormity of it. You don't have to. You can shrink it. I mean, this one is a little bit smaller, but I can make that smaller. And I won't waste the side bits. Look. Look. Sweet. Nice little useful extra bit. Sweet. Now, you see? Lovely. That's more like it. Much more useful. Oh, yes. Look at that. And the other thing I've got here, which I didn't show you earlier because I forgot about it, and they were on the table. Honesty. If you've got dried honesty seed heads, they need peeling because you see how they're sort of dirty looking. And somebody said to me on here, oh, you're doing it wrong. You don't need to actually peel them one by one. You can just shake them and the silvery, the dirtier circles will come off and leave the shiny circles. In my considerable experience, if I shake them, yes, the dirty circles do fall off, but they tend to get tangled and you end up pulling them apart and then you shred them a bit. And the point of these is that they're perfect, not shredded. Obviously, at the same time, the seeds are all coming off. I'll show you one. The seeds are attached to the silver circles that are coming off. Save those and you can scatter them around under trees and in woodlandy patches, and they will come back as grow back as plants. They're biennials, so if you do this in the winter or the early spring, they won't flower till a year and a bit on, but they will flower eventually. Anyway, there we go. So I'm going to make a little bunch. I'm going to bring you a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing, and then I'm going to make a load of bunches. Here you come. Right. Now, I really like, this is my holly, and the variety, I think, always check, use your noodle, unless you're in Australia. Apparently noodle, I think, is in Australia. I just did a podcast with the Grown Not Flown gang in Australia, and I was talking about how people have to use their noodle, and the chap who was interviewing me had to translate for the Australians, because apparently noodle, I think your noodle in Australia is your backside, whereas in England your noodle is your brain. So that I'm going to have one piece of holly, and I'm literally going to make a little bunch with everything. I love, this is dock. No, it's not. It's wild sorrel. Gorgeous. 1, 2. Oh, look at that explosion. This is a wild aster, dried obviously on the plant. This is a wonderful grass which I cut last week. I mean, it is still on the plant looking this good. Calamagrostis, Carl Förster. Little bunch of that. Let's have one of these little bits of hydrangea, and don't forget, this is fleabane. It's a wild kind of daisy shaped flower, and I think it's a kind of tansy, and it's called fleabane because the flies don't like it, and you can have it in your house. It'll keep the buzzing people out during the summer, especially for people like us. We live in Derry. So we are thick Somerset clay, and up the slope from us I can see the remains of Selwood Forest, the ancient Selwood Forest, which is part of one of the ancient forests that covered the British Isles at the recession of the last ice age. That's how old that forest is. And I can see it from here. It's Starhead House is up there. Have a look. I'll put the link on the on the blurb, and you can have a look. And the other side of Selwood Forest, it's an escarpment. So the land drops away down to here where we're thick clay and it's very wet. And up the top there is chalky Wiltshire. Different place. Wiltshire is one county, Somerset's another county. And in the ancient times, you used to have to stop off at King Alfred's Tower up the top there and pay a tax of a jar of vinegar to go between Somerset and Wiltshire. Anyway, up the top there is chalk, and down here is clay. And around here, people keep cows for their milk. And that is where the saying, chalk and cheese, comes from. So the people up there are chalky, the people down here are cheesy, and very different. It's fun, that, isn't it? And one more thing, this is marshmallow. Grows very well for us around here on account of we're so wet. Here we are. So I'm going to tie that all together. I'm even using leftover bits of string. I'm using up the leftovers big time. And I'm not, a lot of people at this stage, you see a lot of people using wire bases, and they're using really heavyweight staplers, all of that. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm using string and willow, no wire. Let's try and use a bit less. Less is more for Christmas. So I'm going to make loads of little bunches like that, and they are going to be attached to my wreath and go all the way around. Or maybe I'll get bored and stop. But I do like to see the twigs. But you can see how that's going to be very attractive. So give me a minute and I'll make about 15 of these until I run out and I'm bored. That's how I work. I could put that on my Christmas table. Look at that, isn't that great? Love that. Right, I'll see you in a minute. To my wreath. Being careful all the time not to poke myself out in the eye with my twiggery pokery. So if you want to make something smaller, cut off some of your twiggery pokery, okay? If you cut off all this twiggery pokery, this would fit on a normal sized doll. But because I have this explosion of twig, it's going to have to hang on a wall. And I'm going to be a little bit careful because all my twigs are going in the same direction, and so all the explosion of twiggery pokery is also, while being quite wild and out of control, it is slightly going in the same direction. So I'm going to tie my little bunches on in the so that they're following the circle. It's going to look something like, do you see? So I will tie one on. It's going to be great, isn't it? So I'll tie one on, and then I will tie them all on and show you what it looks like. But let's tie one on so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got this is where using string is handy, because I've got the ends of the string, and it is with them that I can tie on my piece. Okay, so I'm a very odd person. Most people at this stage would tie all the way around using the wreath as a base. But because I quite like to see a bit of the wreath base, I'm going to tuck my string in between the twigs so that if you looked at it from the back, it would be pretty. Do not necessarily copy me. I am making work for myself, which is not necessarily a good idea. It's going to slow me down. But I quite like it. So I like it. Okay. I mean, really, this is quite an odd way to do things. But I like what it does is I like the fact that I never like to be able to see my workings. And I like it imagine if somebody turned up at my house and they took the wreath off the wall. I want them to wonder how I did it. I want it to be super clever and artistically off the scale. I know. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. If I've got lots of in the way ends, I'm going to tuck them off, and I'm going to use so there's the first one tied on. Of course this happens. They all get hooked on in the way. There's the first one tied on, and every time I tie the next one on, they're going to keep each other solid in the same direction. So here's the next one. Oh, I like it. Right, I'm going to go on, and I'll show you when I'm finished. So here she is finished, and I didn't go all the way around with the. I have got a couple more bunches, and I haven't used them. I've used 8 in the end of the bunches, and she is enormous and ridiculous. Anyway, let's go and hang her up outside and see what she looks like on a wall. Personally, I love this. I tell you what I really loved is this mix of fresh and dried ingredients that I've been working with through the autumn, and particularly recently with my Christmas commissions and the work I've been doing. And I really think that the dried fresh combo is really ringing all my bells at the moment. Next year I expect it'll be something else, but at the moment I'm really loving this. Anyway, let's go and hang it up and see what it looks like. Ooh! Look at the close, oh! Yes, I know. Yes, I agree. What do you think? Go on. This is one hell of a 30-step challenge, guys. And I hope you're all going to step up and have a go. Oh, love it. Just close up, you can see, it's just, though I say it myself, I really, I know I bang on about how much I like my own work. But occasionally I make something that when an idea comes together, I love this idea. It's come together really, really nicely. So will you go out and have a look and see what you can find? What have you got left in your studio after all your work? Have you got anything in the garden that you can twig up and make an enormous wreath like this? Right, let's go and hang it up. There's a 30-stem challenge for you. It's about, well, so far it's about 60-something stems. Now, I'm not going to hang it up by any ribbon. What I like about this is the entirely natural bit. So I'm going to have just, oh, ladybird, watch out at the moment. You might find if you bring things into your house that you have little tiny creatures wake up in the warm. And when I find people like this ladybird, I just tuck them into my compost bucket and they'll go back outside, but they're in a nice warm compost bucket and then they can put themselves back to sleep. Come on, ladybird, let's put you back to bed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang this up with string. I have got hooks that I could hang it straight onto, but what happens is because it's not flat, sometimes it pulls away against, it doesn't like it. So I'm just going to give it a little hook, a loop of string, not a huge amount, sort of, something that big, just so that if the hook it's going to hang on is far back, I can hook back onto it and it's got something. Otherwise, you sometimes find that you can't make the wreath hang straight and it doesn't like it. Also, because I've decided where the top is, and the top is going to be this flush of this stem coming up here, and then I've got another big long stem going down. So my top is here. If I put a loop, then I can make sure that it hangs straight at the bit where I want it to be the top. I know, control freak me, what, really? So I'm just going to, I wonder, how can I make it so you can see? It's very, very simple. Oh no, it's so simple. You're not stupid. You're intelligent people. So I'm literally going to loop, find something that's good and strong and not going to give, and loop. Can you see? Loop my string through one of my twigs. You see? There. And then I've got, because I already tied a little knot, the loop is there. So I've got a string and a loop. So I'm going to cut off my spare. I don't want long bits of string. I don't want to, you know, I appreciate ribbon and everything is lovely. But for me, for this wreath, you know, no two wreaths are the same. You know this. No two wreaths are the same. But this one, I think, is going to do well without ribbon. Right, let's go and hang it on the wall and see what it looks like. Come with me. Well, it's certainly dramatic. And you can see all the detail and the twigs flying up. There's plenty of movement in the breeze. And it comes all the way down there. Next spring's buds. Right, I hope you'll all go and have a go, friends. Make yourself an enormous and extraordinary wreath. Follow no rules. Make your own rules. Just allow your creative juices to flow. I think a wreath is about, yes, it's a Christmas thing, but I love the circularity of it. I love the fact that in 3 days' time it's the solstice and then the light starts to return. And I love the fact that you stop and make a wreath. So this has taken me nearly an hour to make. And you stop and make a wreath, and it's time to think and use your fine motor skills and be creative with whatever you've got in the garden. Make something that you can sort of, I'm almost sort of slightly mesmerised by this sort of work. It's like a little, you're making a little natural mandala upon which you can focus and consider the common good. Anyway, there we are. If I don't see you again, happy Christmas. I have got one more clip coming up for you. Anyway, see you soon. Here it is on my actual door. Too big. I wonder, I might cut it down so that actually the door opens and shuts all right, because it is lovely on a door.